Amateur radio sometimes feels like a hobby just for older people, but of course it's really important to encourage youngsters, especially to ensure it has a long-term future. You're about to see a remarkable film made by Kevin Richardson, G0PEK, and his daughter Lauren, 2E0HLR. And it not only shows that amateur radio can involve young people, but also shows how radio can be an integral part of a family's other hobbies or activities. In a moment we'll meet Kevin and Lauren live. So don't forget you can ask questions and leave comments for them on the YouTube chat at any time during the film. But first, let's watch their video and see why radio is such an important part of their lives.
From the summit of Tarn Crag. Hello to you, this is M6HLR calling.
G6 Lima Kilowatt Bravo. Go there, Lauren.
Go 550 then.
G6 Lima Kilo Bravo and other stations. Could you please queue us wide to 550 please, over.
Roger, all go.
Is this frequency still clear please, over? Nothing heard.
G6 LKB.
G6 LKB from M6HLR. You are
5 and 9.
5 and 9, I guess. For M6HLR.
Yes, M6HLR, portable G6 LKB. Yes, good morning, Lauren. David in Ulverston. Thanks for 5 and 9. You're 5 and 9 also, over.
Yes, all received there. Many thanks for 5 by 9. Please stand by while I pass you over to
Our talk today is about turning amateur radio into a bit of an adventure. Now, myself and Lauren, 2E0HLR, we've been doing this for a little while, certainly since she was first licensed. And one of the things that we've found out is that when you're working with younger amateurs, it doesn't have to be 100% radio. So what we've decided to do is we broke our activity on the radio down into smaller sections and incorporated it in with other activities. Now, before Lauren was licensed, we would do that not just by using a little bit of radio and having a little bit of a chat on the top of a summit, but we would also incorporate things like geocaching and map reading and other little things on the way when we was out climbing mountains or doing canoeing. So that's one of the main things, is break it up into smaller chunks, and then the youngsters have got more chance to engage with it. Generally, a sort of attention span can be measured in minutes, especially with the youngsters. I always used to work on the presumption of a child's age in minutes plus 2 will give you a rough idea as to their attention span with any sort of given activity, and we use that with all sorts of things, but especially with amateur radio. We also engaged that idea into amateur radio when we started to teach Lauren about what she needed for her foundation license.
You're 5 by 9, 59 from the summit of Hallinfell with a lovely view. Over.
You're also 5 and 9, and I know Hallinfell extremely well. I've been up there more times than I care to remember. We would sometimes go to the pub on a Sunday dinner time, then have a walk up Hallinfell. Many years ago, I might add, but yeah, been up there loads of times. But nice to get you, Lauren. So I'll say 73s, and I'll have a quick word for the contact with your mum as well, and let you carry on. And thanks a lot.
When did you first decide you wanted to become a radio amateur?
When I was about 7 years old, and I sat the exam several times before I actually managed to pass, and I got my M6 license at age 9, and it took me a couple of attempts, but yeah, age 7 was when I first wanted to do the exam.
Okay, what really sort of made you decide to get it when you was actually seeing me operate? What activity were we doing?
It was mainly amateur radio on the mountains and from canoes and interesting locations. And sometimes my dad came along with a little walkie-talkie, little handheld, and I was just like, ooh, that sounds cool. And that's when I wanted to get my licence, because I wanted to do the same things he did.
This is M6HLR from the summit of Lingmau, my 213th summit. So yeah, we're planning on doing the next one on August 1st. So, yay! So we've only got one left to do. Yay! So I'm happy with that. We've just finished activating this one, so we're just about to head down into the unknown, as you can see with the mist behind us. Yeah. So, see you later. Bye.
So it took you 5 attempts to get your M6 from the age between 7 and 9 years old. What do you think it was that actually created the biggest stumbling block for you?
I think probably the way the questions were worded, because as a 7-year-old I wasn't that good at reading questions. I'm still not, but like the way they were worded just was a bit confusing to a young person. They were more focused on older people, so like they would just be really hard words to understand at 7, whereas other people would get them first try, stuff like that.
So it was more to do with the grammar rather than the content of the question, would you say?
Yeah.
M6HLR Portable reporting from just off the summit of Birkhouse, which you can just see over there. And on the map, that is marked as the hole in the wall, like the TV show. Like that. That is St Sunday Crag. That's the Striding Edge. That's Helvellyn, Squirrel Edge, Catsley Cam. That's what we're going up. And that white path, if you can see going down, is the path to the cafe. Bye!
What do you like most about amateur radio?
I like doing special events because I get to see places that I wouldn't normally see. I like building things as well, so I like making little kits up and radios and stuff like that. And I've forgotten what else. Special events, definitely. Seeing unusual places and going to unusual places like mountain climbing and stuff like that. Yeah.
This is M6HLR Portable from the summit of, Middle Dodds, and that's the cairn over there, but you can't really see it. It's quite hidden. And up there is Road Screws. We were meant to be doing 4 today, but hallelujah, thank you to Dad. We have to do 2, so we've just done it, and then we go back up there, wait 2 hours. Well, we're just gonna slog our way up, be very slow. And then we're going to do a contest for an hour. I'm going to do 15 minutes of it. And then we're going to go down the same route we came up. I don't think Mum's looking forward to that because it's quite slippery. But, as you can see, doing the radio. So, I'll say goodbye. Bye.
What do you like least about amateur radio?
I think the thing I like least is definitely contests, just because I'm not award driven and it's just boring for a young person to sit in front of a radio trying to get as many contacts as possible without having a conversation. I just found that as a younger person very boring. And
so how long would you manage on a 2-hour contest? How long would you normally operate for?
half an hour.
Yeah, about half an hour.
Yeah, so
there was other reasons for that as well. That was also because doing the UKAC contest of an evening, Lauren would have to go to bed a bit earlier, and because of school, so she would generally do about the first sort of 30-40 minutes.
Yeah. Mike 6, Echo Papa Whiskey. Yeah, good afternoon to you there. I think it's Liz, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, 559 from the site of Skiddaw. LDW 004, QSL.
What are your views on data modes with young people?
Well, I like SSTV, and that's just because it's quite interactive and you can see like the photo and pictures develop as they come onto the screen. But I'm not really into modes like FT8 and like communicating through a computer, because that just like is very impersonal, and it's just not as fun as talking to someone, which is the whole reason why I got interested in the first place, that you could talk to people around the world. But with a data ban like FT8, you're not really talking to them, you're like messaging like you would on Facebook and stuff like that. So it just doesn't really, if you wanted to communicate with someone across the world like that, you can just go Facebook. You don't need to go on to stuff like FT8. So I just found it's not particularly interesting, it's just the exact same thing.
Round about 10 or just slightly after, did I see your photographing Radcom over?
Yes, I think you did, because I was on the front, yeah.
On the front page.
I was on the front page, for the GB75MQ, and then there's 2-page spread, and then there was me about a Lego antenna. Over.
Yeah, that's all copied, Lauren. I thought it was, but anyhow, I'll let you crack on, and I'll listen out for you the rest of the week if you're staying up. So I'll say 7-3s for now and let you get some more contacts. Bye for now, Lauren.
Yes, 73s to you there, and QRZ. This is M6HLR Portable.
Golf 4 Whiskey Hotel Alpha Mobile.
Golf 4 Whiskey Hotel Alpha Mobile from M6HLR Portable. Yes, good afternoon to you there, Jeff. 5 by 9:59 from the summit of Broomfell. LDW 169. Over.
Yes, Roger on the 5 and 9. I've just got pulled up. You're about 5 and 2, Lauren. 5 and 2, over.
Yep, thank you very much for the 5 by 2. And
That's all the summits
that's
today.
all the summits we're doing today. We're going back, to Keswick for something to eat. I'll pass you over to my dad so you can get the call. Over.
Many thanks, Lauren, and thank you for all the summits today, and hope you enjoyed the walk. It's quite nice up there, and you'll have a nice clear day. I'm looking over in that direction, even though I can't actually see where you're at, but Blencathra looks really nice. Okay, many thanks, Lauren, and I'll say 73s and I'll wait for your dad.
Okay, 73s.
Yeah, 73s. I'm
What are
passing
your
you over.
thoughts about using things like DMR, radio and Echolink and such like?
They definitely have their uses. I mean, Echolink can be used to keep in contact with radio friends when you're out of range, but most of them need at least one analog radio, which we often use to keep in contact. But the thing is, though, if the internet does go down, you can't use them. So it definitely has its ups and downs. DMR has not really got many uses for us, but yeah.
Secured. This is Mike 6 Hotel Lima Romeo Portable from the summit of the NAB. LDW 139. This is M6 HLR Portable from the summit of the NAB, calling and listening.
Golf 4 Whiskey Hotel Alpha Stroke Alpha.
Golf 4 Whiskey Hotel Alpha Stroke Alpha. Yeah, could you please queue us wide to 145575, please, over.
Yeah, 575 golf.
So what have you actually done to help encourage other young people to get involved with amateur radio?
Well, there's a 214 Wainwrights that me and my dad both completed when I was about 12. I've taken radio kits and stuff into school to show the ISS and like solar flares and stuff like that. I've done that. Done loads of special event stations to help promote amateur radio and like loads of small activities for kids as well. I've worked bicycle mobile, built loads of antennas and kits, and I've done some contests, but not that many either as well.
And what did we do at rallies?
We mainly, we do like an interactive zone for the little kids, like younger people, to get them into the hobby. So we do like little motors and little fun activities and explain the science behind them.
This is Gibson Knot.
The 50th summit that I've done this Easter.
Yeah, so how do you feel?
Elated.
Elated. 50 summits in just over 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ain't bad. So Gibson Knot. There's a view. And it's a fine all day on the hills.
Lovely.
Go.
Siki Wota. This is Mike 6 Hotel Lima Romeo Portable. M6 HLR Portable from the summit of Gibson Knot. LDW 198. Over. Siki Wota. This is Mike 6 Hotel Lima Romeo Portable. M6 HLR Portable from the summit of Gibson Knot. The 50th summit this Easter. Over. Hello CQ. Siki Wota. This is Mike 6 Hotel Lima Romeo Portable and G0 PEK Portable from the summit of Gibson Knot. Calling and listening.
6 Lima Kilowatt Bravo.
Golf 6 Lima Kilowatt Bravo. Yes, could you please queue us wide to 145550, I think. Over.
Roger, will do.
Is this frequency still clear, please? Over. Nothing heard. Golf 6 Lima Kilo Bravo. Go ahead.
Yeah, G60KB. Right, okay, Lauren, you're not very strong again. 4 and 4, 44. 4, 4, 44, over.
555.
All received there. Thank you very much for the 4x4. You are 5x5, 55 from the summit of Gibson Knot. LDW 198, the 50th summit this Easter. Over.
Roger, Gibson Knot. Got all that, Lauren, no problem at all.
Yeah, all received there. Thank you very much for the call. Please stand by and I'll pass you over to G0 PK Portable.
How can we make amateur radio more engaging for young people?
Well, definitely it needs to be fun. I mean, like, things like direction finding are good, where you have to walk around and get a signal to find little flags and stuff like that. That will be good. Special event stations, providing there's more hands-on stuff to do, like little motors to make and play with and stuff like that. SSTV is good, just because it's interactive and you can see how the picture forms. And summit operation, just because it gets you out and about and you can do you can do two things you love.
This is M6HLR and I've just come down off of Esk Pike over there. You can see the way in the mist. Very windy up there. And today I did my 100th summit.
Yay.
So altogether I've done 102 summits.
Activated, isn't it?
Activated 102 summits. That one over there is Rossett Pike, the R99. Then Allen Crag, which is over there somewhere, was my 100th. And then we did Great End, which there was geocache on, and then Esk Pike, which was our last one.
And where are we heading to now?
The pub.
That's right. Yeah.
And then to our campsite to play cards with us tonight.
Okay. See you later.
See you later.
What
Bye.
can we do to encourage more young people into amateur radio?
We need to make them welcome. We need to say that this isn't an adults only club. Children are welcome. Because when I first joined the club, I wasn't welcome at all. I was seen as the little annoying kid that was running around wreaking havoc. That was how I felt I was viewed. I did not feel welcome at all. But we need to have more opportunities and events to get more children involved and get hands-on stuff done. Youngsters on the air is okay for that, but that's for older youngsters, like 18 and above. So technically it should be not youngsters on the air, adults on the air more likely. And YOTA is also okay, but that's to do with scouts. So if you're not a scout, you don't have the same opportunities.
Okay, so more opportunities for youngsters to get out and on air then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely more opportunities and make them feel more welcome in general.
Yep.
Do you think youngsters should get involved with radio?
No.
Hey!
No, I'm joking. Of course I do. Otherwise, we wouldn't have supported Lauren on her quest sort of through amateur radio. So we had to relearn a lot because everything had changed from when we first got licensed. So we had to go through a whole learning curve so that we could support Lauren. what made it hard, I think, was grammar on the questions. That as a 7-year-old answering multiple choice questions, the grammar on some of the questions were particularly challenging for her, which sort of slowed up her progress. So it took her a couple of years to get her license. But once she got her M6, she put that to really, really good use, and would support her through all of her activities sort of with amateur radio.
What other projects have you done, and what is your next project going to be?
Well, we supported Lauren through her quest to do all the Wainwrights. That took 2 years and an awful lot of effort and money and time in order to facilitate that. So we both climbed all the Wainwrights, of course. We've been experimenting with operating from a canoe and from kayaks. Some experiments have been more successful than others, so we'll probably be doing more of that over the next coming years. But our current focus is on bicycle mobile. So the last year we've been really experimenting with the best setups that we can come up with for operating safely whilst cycling, not just static. Last year, 2019, we experimented with a long trip from Dover down to Land's End. Wasn't sure if we was going to get there, but we did, and we experimented with radio. Well, the experiments sort of went okay. Batteries were a big problem on that, so we've been researching battery technologies this year. We were hoping for 2020 to do Land's End, John O'Groats to Cape Wrath and do a special event up at Cape Wrath Lighthouse, but that didn't happen. So we've rescheduled that for the summer of 2021. So we hope to be able to at least attempt it and hopefully succeed on that one. After that, we'll probably turn our attention back to doing something on the mountains because we actually miss the mountains, and we want to go back and explore some more activities with the Wainwrights on the Air style activity, and maybe at least start round 2 and see if we can do it better than we did last time. So that's the sort of things that we're doing. So always thinking of new things.
Okay.
So our approach mainly has been about combining amateur radio with other activities. Now we do a lot of canoeing, we do a lot of hill walking, we do a lot of cycling. So they're the 3 things that we've chosen to combine radio with. But there's all sorts of other things that you can do. So that's one of the things that got Lauren interested, because she would see us operating from a radio up on a mountain. To start with, before she was licensed, we would use the radios as a means to an end for keeping in contact. If I was going up high up on a mountain, my wife, who's also licensed, would have a radio at the bottom. They may go for a lower level walk, or we do a split walk, and then we would use the radios to keep in contact. And that's really how we found out about Wainwrights on the Air and the SOTA program at the time. And then we started to do a little bit of that. Lauren got interested in that, and that's what started us off on that route. So in between times, we also did stuff where we were canoeing. So from the age of 5, Lauren was involved with doing canoe trips down the River Thames. Not just day trips, but trips of 120 miles over 2 weeks and stuff like that. And every single one of our canoe trips would involve radio in some way. To start with, it was just using APRS and a simple handheld and a simple antenna on the back of the canoe. But over the trips that we did, I think we did 6 different trips down, the amount of amateur radio that we would embark on increased on every single trip. So using voice, even HF, we succeeded in making HF contacts from the canoe. So and they're the sort of things that we do, and we still do that today, or we use the canoe to get out to unusual locations. Fortunately, just close by here, we've got a nice little island out in the River Medway, and we often go out there and go exploring and set up the radio and operate from there. So it does give us the opportunity to get to unusual places, and we've got a few other sneaky little places in mind for future events if we can keep the salt water off the radios, which is always a problem. Okay, I'm Kevin, G0PEK, and one of the things that we do like to do is to combine our hobbies and interests. So today, myself and Lauren, 20HLR, we're out on a canoe trip down the River Medway. Been doing a little bit of magnet fishing as well, and also a little bit of radio. So we do canoe mobile, and here we've got a little hand-built homemade antenna. That's one of our little flat pot antennas that we use on the bicycles and on the canoe, and well, up in trees and on flat as well. It'll fall off if we capsize. So very, very simple antenna to make, just out of RG58. So that's one of the antennas that we use for portable. I can get into the local repeaters quite happily with it. We use them up on summits, all sorts of things. We also quite like the PA0FBK collinears, and we've modified those to get them down to 21 grams in weight, so very, very light. And they're the ones that we tend to use when we go bicycle portable, or bicycle mobile. We were meant to be using a couple of them this year as we cycled up to John O'Groats and Cape Wrath for this weekend actually, but wasn't to happen. That's all been sorted out or planned for next year, so we'll be doing our 1300 mile cycle event length. There'll be more news on that as we go. So very cheap, very cheerful, but they work, and that's all it is. And we just use a little handheld, use a little D72 handheld with it. So that's our little portable antennas on the canoe, and we'll be using it canoe mobile down the River Medway tomorrow. Right, see you later. Hill walking and amateur radio really do go hand in hand. So not only have we got the opportunity to operate from summits and intercept signals from other summit operators or from people further afield, it's also a good emergency backup, and we've not actually used our radios for emergencies in that way, but we've come very, very close to it. But we've rescued a few people on the mountains, but we've been able to use other means to get communication through. But it's there when we need it. But we have sort of experimented with antennas, and we've made our own antennas and modified antennas and things like that in order to make these things work better for us. So every time we go up, we're always experimenting, trying new things out. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but that's the nature of the beast with all these things. So so some of our activations haven't been as successful as they could have been, but others have far surpassed our expectations. With cycling and amateur radio, we've tried to do several things with it. We've tried to use the radios as a means for keeping in communication with each other when we're cycling through sort of very busy areas. And although we can do that, it's we've had real problems with some of the radios that we've experimented with. So normally to do with time lag on voice operated. On the Vox systems and the hang times on the radio and stuff like that. So sometimes they're all a little bit too long. So by the time you've identified an issue and got a message through, the issue's disappeared. So or passed. So we don't use the radios generally like that, although we can. But rather than use a voice operated system, we now have made up our own latching PTT systems that we can actually attach to the front of the bike, use a standard headset, and then operate the radio that way, and that gets away from all the time lag issues with Vox and stuff like that. So that's generally how we would operate the radios if we needed to in a very, very busy, noisy environment. But the same system also means that we can operate truly bicycle mobile. As we're cycling along, we can be talking on the radio, and it's all hands-free, and it's all quite safe to do. But bearing in mind, we are just using handheld radios to do that. Nothing more powerful. The antennas we're using at the moment, we've modified a fairly well-known one that we found on the internet, and just made it a lot lighter, and it fits onto bicycle flags. So that's one of our main antennas. We've tried others. We've tried mobile whips and stuff like that, and yeah, they work, but they do the job to a degree, but they're just not quite the way we want to do it. We're still struggling with a HF antenna that we can actually operate from the bicycle. We're going to do some whisper, hopefully next year. We've got a small antenna that we can utilise for whisper operating, but I don't think we'll ever get to using a truly sort of a HF bicycle mobile antenna. I think that's a little bit beyond us at the moment. Certainly bicycle portable, you know, we can stop somewhere, chuck an antenna up, no problems at all. But actually cycling and HF is, I think that's a little bit beyond us. And also there's a safety issue of it as well. So we always have to think of that. With the canoeing, what we tend to do is make our antennas detachable, so that if there is a problem we capsize, antennas will detach and don't become a trap hazard or anything like that. And we have to employ the same sort of ideas to our bicycle mounted antennas. So we don't want any of our radio stuff to get damaged or to be the cause of any accident. So yeah, it's fun and games. It's not always easy trying to make things work.
20HLR and G0PK starting their journey from Dover to Land's End should hopefully take about 60, maybe less days. Fingers crossed.
All being well, we should get there on the 16th. Hopefully catch a few of you on the radio on the way. Okay, so this is day 2, so we're just about to leave Ashford, heading to Eastbourne. Around about 73 kilometres. Be on GB3CK and S20 on the way down, and then ES, of course. See you all later. So as well as doing all the activities out and about, up in the mountains, out on the bikes and out on foot and all that, we have been taking part in the rallies. Now we started to do this probably about 4 or 5 years ago, where we would take a whole load of interactive activities. Very little of it was radio related, although obviously there were bits and pieces that were, but it was more just sort of general electrical science stuff that we would take in, with the whole idea of engaging youngsters into the field of electronics and stuff like that. And our way of thinking with all this is that there's only a small step between that type of science and radio science. So it's a very good way of linking both in. So we've done quite a few rallies in Kent. Haven't done any further afield, although we have been asked several times to do them further afield. But we're trying to move away from doing these sort of activities at radio rallies because we're really preaching to the converted. So the whole idea next is to take all these activities to special events. So once we can get cracking again with running special events, or certainly the higher profile special events where we've got a lot more footfall, then that's where we really want to be bringing these activities, so that we can engage with youngsters on and off the radio and encourage them to to experiment with science, have a bit of a play with science, and learn what it's all about. So that's what we're attempting to do. So we've spent a good 4 years doing the rallies, 4 or 5 years, and now it's time to take them away from the rallies and move on. But all the activities we got, there's nothing sort of magical about them. They're all just sort of fairly standard things that anyone can do, and take to their own local rallies and do their own thing in a very similar way. It's just that sometimes we find that special events can be a bit how can I say it, a little bit staid in their ways. One of my pet hates with rallies is when you just got a row of tables with a whole load of amateurs with headphones on, backs to the general public, and doing their thing on radio. I cringe whenever I see that. So whenever I'm doing special events, I'm spending more time off radio than I am on radio, engaging with the public. And I think that's one of the really, really important things. Also, we don't always take the most expensive radios that we've got. Sometimes we'll take the very basic radio equipment and show what can be done with those. Because at the end of the day, we don't always want to be sending out that sort of statement that amateur radio is expensive. It doesn't have to be. You can set it up on a budget, as we all know. Yeah. So you can do it in all sorts of ways. This is one of the reasons why we make a lot of our own antennas, because we make them for pennies, and a lot of them are made out of scrap. So they're the sort of things that we do. With all of our portable radio operating, there is another thing that we have to really think about, especially with youngsters, and that is safety. So it can be all sorts of things to do with safety, from where you're positioning equipment, so all that just comes down into your risk assessment and stuff like that as to how you set up, especially when you're doing things like special events and things like that. But it's also about physical safety. So we did all these activities on mountains and stuff like that. We did them in all weathers, but we've got the skills and the knowledge to deal with that. And when we did the mountains, for instance, out of the 214, I don't think any of the trips that we actually did went according to plan, and we would change our plans mainly because of the weather or because of our fitness at the time, or if we were a little bit tired, that sort of thing, then we would change things. So we'd always be monitoring Lauren as to how she was feeling, and then we'd adapt the activity days accordingly. So that was one of the main things. So we'd go out with a plan, but we wouldn't always stick to that plan, and we would sometimes it would change on a daily basis. So so safety is definitely one of the main things. It's also safety of your equipment, and that's one of our biggest problems, especially when we're starting to do all the canoeing and radio stuff, because, as you know, water and radios is not a good combination. So keeping stuff dry is always a challenge, but we normally find a way of doing that. Typically we use map cases that we buy from the local outdoor shop, and seal them with a couple of pieces of aluminium plate and blue tack. That seems to be the simplest way that we've done it, but touch wood, we've never broken a radio or flooded a radio during all our events. Come close, we've frozen one, but that's another story. So as Lauren said earlier on, one of the things that we actually need to do is to encourage more youngsters into amateur radio. So she sort of touched on different ways of doing that. The main thing is making it fun. I think that's got to be paramount. Also, keep it simple and keep it short. So there's no point in sort of planning a mountain day to go up onto a summit and spending 4 hours up there. That's not going to work, on many levels. Not only have you got the boredom setting in, but you've also got the real hazard of the weather, and the cold, seeping in, and that can be a real issue. And that was one of the reasons why the YOTA, the Wainwrights on the Air system, worked for us, because you can activate a summit just with one contact, whereas the summits on the air you need at least 4. So having said that, most of our summits we had way more than 4 contacts anyway. But there were a couple of occasions where the weather dictated that we really didn't want to be there for any longer than we wanted. So sometimes they were just single contact summits, and then that was it. We were off, and then seeking a safer venue. So there we are. And sometimes we didn't even get to to the summits. We would turn around within 300 metres of a summit and say enough's enough, and we'll have to go and do it again. And we did that several times. So, but there we go. So, yeah, keep it short and keep it sweet is one of the main things. And have other little tricks up your sleeve. If you're going to do sort of stuff with real youngsters, have some other activities that you can do as well. A bit of geocaching or a bit of map reading, stuff like that. Can always break up an activity day, and then add the radio in, and then build up what you do with the radio, and then it all becomes a bit of fun. Lauren also mentioned that we had a little bit of a problem with clubs, and yes, we were told from a particular club that it was an adults only club, but we tended to just ignore those sort of comments, and then we just sort of carried on, and we found that the best way of changing things was from changing them from within. So by sticking at it, we was able to sort of change those sort of attitudes for the better. Because I think any club any radio club especially that thinks they should be adults only, probably don't think they'll be here for much longer. At the end of the day, youngsters are one of the main ways that we're going to be able to maintain this hobby over the next sort of few decades. It's not the only one. There are other streams of getting people involved, but and the thing with youngsters is they may not be doing radio all the time, and you can set them up with the skills now, and then they'll go through a stage of not using them. Lauren's at that now because she's now 15, and she's got more important things to be doing. She's got her GCSEs coming up, so her main focus is on those, and she's got other interests outside of radio, same as I have. So we've never done 100% radio, and I don't expect Lauren to do the same. So, but it's never been rammed down her throat, and the shack is here as and when she wants to use it. Some of the radios are hers, so she can pick up a radio when she wants it. But generally, her way of operating, as she said, was from special events and other away events. So that'll be when she really gets involved on the radio. But at the moment, she's not heard on the radio particularly often because she's got a lot of commitments to her time at the moment. So that limits the amount of radio time that she has. But another few years' time, that'll all change.
Well, Logan, I just put my hood down to look better. It gives me great pleasure to present you with this medal for completing all the 214 Wainwrights as an activator, and I feel very honoured to be part of it, along with Derek and your dad, Kevin. You've done extremely well. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well done, well done.
Absolutely.
Let's have a look at the medal. What's that say on there?
Lauren M6HLR, Wainwright's on the air, youngest to activate all 214 summits.
Is it? Oh, let's have a look on the camera so we can see it.
It also has my name on the ribbon, that's so cool.
There you go.
How's that for an inspirational film? There we are. Wonderful. And have you ever heard of Canoe Mobile before? That's so cool. Anyway, let's go and meet them. They're here live to answer your questions, so don't forget to ask them on the YouTube chat. We've only got a few minutes with them. Let's welcome Kevin G0PEK and Lauren 2E0HLR. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you.
How are you two?
Yeah, we're okay. Yeah, still planning other projects.
Yeah, it was honestly so inspirational. Some of the comments that we've had already are wonderful, as you can imagine, and so it's I'm going to get straight on to some of the questions because it's not for me to ask all of those things. Quite a few people agreeing with you that some of the questions in the foundation exam can be difficult. In fact, one of the first comments we got was from John M7RCZ, who says that even old fogies misunderstand questions, like me, he said. And several other people. Mike Taylor's asked a question. I wonder what attracts the youngsters to the hobby when you have the world of social media in your pocket wherever you go these days.
I don't actually know. I suppose it's because it's so old and it has a history. There's history behind it, I suppose.
Yeah, from my point of view, I think Lauren was actually just sort of watching what I was doing, and then, you know, saw us having a bit of fun and wanted some of the action and wanted to play. And that was how it all started off on the mountains thing, really. That's what really started Lauren off, just watching what I was doing.
I guess, Lauren, it's because people of my age tend to think of most youngsters loving to play with their tablets, and they're always texting and WhatsApping and all that sort of thing. And maybe that it's slightly surprising that you'd rather do voice than do, say, data modes with radio.
Yeah, I suppose it's just because you can text people every day, and I suppose radio's something different, so you can't really associate that same thing with social media.
Voice is more personal.
Yeah, that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Pete M0PSX, who runs Essex Ham, actually, and as you know, they do a lot of the online courses and things as well, so they get to meet a lot of people who are doing that. I had a lovely comment here from GB1NHS. It says, Lauren, you're such an inspiration to us all. Very well done to you.
Thank you.
And Steve Gill says that it's refreshing to see youngsters enjoying the radio, but we have to be more innovative to encourage them. So, Lauren, from you, what do you think other clubs and people who are watching this are going to be members of other clubs, and in normal times when things get back to normal, be able to meet again? What should we be doing to encourage other youngsters like you?
I suppose have like little activities maybe. Because I love hands-on stuff, like making things and building things. So I suppose things that might reel a youngster in is building things related to the hobby. So maybe like we built a Lego antenna, for instance, associate one of their like pastime hobbies of Lego with radio, and maybe that link might help people become into the hobby a bit more.
I mean, Essex Hams have actually asked you a question for Lauren. Does she talk about amateur radio with her friends? And if so, what do they think? And have Lauren and Kevin engaged with Lauren's school and STEM, for example?
We have actually. We've done that. We have mentioned that we did a special event when I was in Year 8 at my school, but very few people came along. One of my best friends did come along, and she did a great message to someone that we were talking to. I do mention it to my friends from time to time. They do think it's quite cool, but I don't mention it.
Cool, not geeky?
Sorry?
Do they think it's cool and not geeky? Because I think that's what I'd be worried about.
Yeah, no, some of my friends do think it's really cool. Definitely some do think it's geeky as well. So I don't mention it that often because I feel kind of like off to the side, like I don't feel part of the group if I don't.
I think that one of the routes in is actually to relate amateur radio to things that they already do. So for instance, I do the text messaging. You can quite easily relate that into things like SSTV, and then associate the two together, and then sort of get some pictures from the ISS or whatever, and then it sort of makes that connection that actually what they're doing is very similar to what we're doing.
And I guess, I mean, you were very inspirational in your film about showing that you weren't just going to somewhere just to do radio. You were using it within your everyday hobbies and interests. So you could just, as well as making contacts, though, I guess you do use radio between yourselves just as a tool to talk to each other.
We have done that. We've tried that on the cycling, especially like in sort of very busy and noisy environments. We tested it out, but we decided that it wasn't working quite the way that we wanted to, maybe because of the radios that we were using. But we have done that, and we've also used them on Summit to base connections as well, so that the rest of the family know where we are and what's going on. So we have used it for safety as well. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. And Ben M7MMS has sent several different messages there, and has also said it's possible that older people who grew up using purely verbal communications find novelty in more efficient data modes than younger people entering the hobby. So in other words, you find it almost unusual to phone people or talk to people on the air, Lauren, with voice, and not just doing it with data, because it's something different.
Yeah, I suppose, as you just said, it could be that the older people of the generation, they're they're coming into the hobby of social media and messaging like that. Whereas the people, the younger generation, like me and other people, they've already been into social media, so talking to people is more of a novelty than the other way around.
I've got a lovely offer for you, by the way, from GB1NHS. It says, "Hi David, we'd love to involve Kevin and Lauren with the next phase of the RSGB NHS Get on the Air to Care campaign." So there's an offer for you. Are you up for doing that?
Yeah, we can do something with that, no problems at all.
All right, well, we'll make sure we put you in touch straight after the programme. Robbie EI2IP says, so how important is it to have the foundation licence for younger people? Some countries don't even have a foundation level, he says.
I have no idea how to answer that. I suppose it's important because it's kind of a simple test anyway.
It's a lot easier than the intermediate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a stepping stone. I think that's the important thing, and it gives the youngsters an opportunity to get involved in the hobby from an early start, really. With just the basic knowledge. So yeah, I think it is a really sort of good step from our point of view. I mean, Lauren couldn't have done it without it.
No. So it made that easier. Alex M7MEX says, what an inspiration to young people. This is the future to keep the hobby strong and see it go into the next century, he says.
Thank you very much.
SSTV for the last 2 weeks from International Space Station, says Robbie again. I was going to ask actually, was the ISS and the space contacts and things with Tim Peake, were they very inspirational as well, Lauren?
Oh, I absolutely love doing that because I genuinely love space and anything to do with it. So the idea of contacting the space station and knowing how the radio signal comes from the space station down to Earth is really, really fascinating for me.
Yeah, we've actually utilised that. Well, not just with Tim Peake, but we did quite a few different things at different schools. Lauren did some at one school. I did it at a place of work where I was working with the youngsters, and we did several school visits where we took out some radio stuff and was either picking up SSTV or listening to Tim Peake and the others up there as well. And we was fortunate to be involved with one of the ISS events through one of the local radio clubs as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, Frank Heritage. This is, I suppose, slightly off the subject, but still keeping with youth. Says that hoping to run SSTV on 2 meters FM next weekend for YOTA, which is Jamboree on the Air, from GB2GP, which is Gilwell Park, which is the Scout HQ, I think. We should have a good coverage of the southeast. So please call us if you hear us. That's to everybody, of course, watching this.
Yeah, we've done them. We've sent them SSTV before, so we'll be listening out for you.
Look out! Of course, there can't be any scouts or anything there because of these COVID times. But there's never been a better time to get on the air to care, is there?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What other questions do we have for you? Essex Ham. This is a question for Kevin from Peter M0PSX at Essex Ham. Lauren's spoken to my unlicensed daughter via a greetings message a couple of times. What do you think of the idea of amateurs encouraging their kids to use greetings messages? That's from Pete.
I think greetings messages are absolutely fabulous way of doing things, and we've actually got a video of us doing a greetings message with another youngster as well, and I think we haven't put that up on YouTube yet, but we will do. We've actually got a bit of video from both sides, and it's quite an interactive one. So yeah, greetings messages are absolutely brilliant. We use them when we can, especially at special events, and we're always doing that when we can. But obviously this year it's been a bit difficult.
Absolutely, yeah. We're almost at the end of our time now, but just to tell you, Matt2E0VWM. I love your YouTube name, by the way. Campervan Cookout is his YouTube name. He says, try a Wonder Wand. That's it, widebander with a whip or maybe a Watson multi-ranger for your bikes, he says.
Yeah, we've tried similar sort of things, but it's all to do with grounding is the biggest problem. That's the issue that we have with that. So, but yeah, we're always experimenting. We've pretty well got the VHF antennas. It's sorted now. We make our own, but the HF one's a bit more problematic.
Well, as I said, we're really at the end of our time. We've had lots and lots of messages. One other question I can just squeeze in. Dave G4OTV says, is Lauren intending to go for her full licence when schoolwork allows?
I'm seriously debating it. I'm not sure yet, just because of GCSEs and stuff like that. I don't know what's going on with school at the moment.
No.
I'm halfway my mocks at the moment, so next week's
It's not a priority at the moment.
No,
But it's always there.
maybe later on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Paul, by the way, Paul, as well as the GB1 NHS, they're going to be in touch with you because they maybe like you to do a little video for the GB1 NHS website to inspire other youngsters. You've both been a great inspiration to all of us, both us oldies and also I'm sure a lot of the youngsters who are watching this and are going to watch it in the weeks and months and years to come. You've told a lovely story of your life with radio, that it doesn't just take over, that you integrate it with your hobbies and your interests and getting outside and keeping fit and all that sort of thing. And it's been wonderful to meet you two. So thank you very much, and do take care of yourselves. Lovely to see you both as well. That's Kevin Richardson, G0PEK, and his daughter, Lauren, 2E0HLR. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thanks. Cheers, guys.